What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction, and in this one we have which nation is India's most trusted friend? Let's see if I had to take a most trusted friend. I'm gonna go with Israel on this. I'm gonna say Israel is India's most trusted friend. That's me taking a guess from all the knowledge that I have of India. Could be completely wrong, but interested to see. Before we dive into this, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and if you would like to support the channel by becoming a member, make sure you smash that join button and receive your exclusive benefits. See what Abhijit Chavda has to say about it.
In the world of geopolitics, who is India's most trusted friend? Good question. This is a question that many Indians have. And let me, explain what things are like. There are no friends in geopolitics. There are no friends, there are no enemies. There are allies and there are adversaries and alliances.
I completely understand that. I completely get where he's going with that. In a world where we're not looking at friends, who is your, I guess, best ally? Who would be India's best ally? Alliance-wise? I don't know. I'm intrigued to hear this answer.
And adversarial engagements are always temporary in nature. Nothing is permanent, nothing is set in stone. Let me give you an example. For the past 2,500 years, ever since China emerged as a civilization 2,500 years ago, all this time, India and China have never had an adversarial relationship. Never in the past 2,500 years. It's only after the Chinese Communist Party under Mao Zedong came to power in the 1950s or thereabouts that India and China became adversaries. The adversarial relationship happened because of Chinese actions. It started with the conquest of Tibet, the illegal annexation of Tibet, and then they started having designs on further Indian territory. So this is the first time in 2.5 millennia that India and China have become an adversarial relationship. So for the longest time, India and China were very good, not neighbors, because Tibet was always the common neighbor. But now you have this situation. Let's take another example, India and Russia. Like I said, India officially was non-aligned, but unofficially, and for all real intents and purposes, it was an ally and a satellite of the Soviet Union during the so-called Cold War. Now, after the Cold War ended, after the USSR disintegrated, a new republic was born, Russia, the Russian Russian Republic. And the relationship between India and Russia hasn't been the way the India-USSR relationship was.
This is just kind of interesting to think about. Like, yeah, over time, I guess agendas change, things change, and so people who may have been good friends can now be your adversaries, depending on circumstances and situations. And that's why you say there are no such things as friends. When it comes to the world of geopolitics, there's alliances and then there's adversaries, and alliances are not permanent, right? Temporary alliances, and then you got these adversaries, and these adversaries may have been a country, a neighbor that you got along with for so long, such as China, where they had no issues for over 2,000 years. I think it's 2,500, until that man came into power in the 50s. That I guess they conquered Tibet, took that, and then took that land, and then tried to plan to take more land from India, and so that's where that's where the tension started. That's where the problem between the two countries started and everything. So yeah, I guess I understand what he's saying. There are no friends when it comes to this game.
Been the way the India-USSR relationship was. This relationship is not black and white. It's not straightforward. It is not a straightforward relationship. It is complicated, as we know. Russia is currently engaged in various other relationships with countries such as China and Pakistan, which India would never have expected if it was the Cold War. So Indians always look upon Russia as a great friend,
Yeah.
right? But that was a relationship that was mutually beneficial at that time. Today, Russia finds
There you
benefit
go.
elsewhere. It still has a reasonably good relationship with India, but it isn't the way it was, right? It isn't unconditional the way it was during the Cold War.
Mm.
So things change. Before 1947, there was no Pakistan, so we did not have any issue on the western border. Today, we have this issue because this new temporary nation exists there currently, and so on and so forth. So there are no friends. Okay, once again, we talk about Israel, and Indians love
Yeah.
Israel. Israel is our bosom buddy, our great friend. India and Israel have shared interests, and that is why the relationship is so good. India and Israel
That,
are
because that's who I would have guessed, Israel. But that makes sense. I mean, what he said makes absolute 100% sense. Yeah, you just based on your interest and based on aligned interests, determine like the alliances that you have, and things are always changing. I think first and foremost, you have to think all countries are gonna look at what's best for them, what's best for the people in my country, what's best for my interest, and I think that's the way countries look at things. And so while your interests may be aligned with this country's interests at this point in time, things could shift, things could change. Now your interests are more aligned with this country, and so now your relationship with this country that it seems like you guys have been so close, so friends for so long, now that relationship starts to disintegrate because you have more aligned interests with this country, or this country is more mutually beneficial for you than this country has been. And so now I guess things just change determined on which country is most beneficial to you, or based on what's going to help your country the most. What relationship is going to help your country the most at this point in time? That's going to determine who that temporary alliance is and who those adversaries are. That's just, I mean, that's just life. I feel like that's, and I feel like that's the way a lot of people walk around life. Like, shoot, it really is there unconditional loyalty out there. What do you guys think?
in some ways in a very similar position, in a very similar situation. So that is why the interests of these two nations converge to a great deal, and that is why there is such a great amount of cooperation between the two nations. Things can change in the future, right? So there is nothing permanent in geopolitics. There are no friends or enemies. There are temporary alliances and temporary adversarial relationships.
I feel
If we
that.
understand this, then we will be able to see the world for what it really is. It is a transient place. In geopolitics, the smallest unit of time is the decade. Nothing happens year after year. Okay,
I feel
if
that.
you want to see change on the geopolitical level, you have to see it decade by decade. And if you see it that way, then you will see how the alliances and even borders change from time to
It's
time.
crazy.
So that is the lens through which we must look upon geopolitics. It is the realistic lens, not the idealistic lens. We have to be
Yes.
realistic and pragmatic and recognize the fact that every nation has its own interests. And when interests converge, we're going to work together. When interests diverge, we're going to either drift apart or even become adversaries. So
Yeah.
that's how it works.
I'm glad I got to watch that video and kind of listen to him talk about it. It's like that should be obvious. That should have been something that I just obviously knew about, because that's how I feel like life works. But yeah, each country is going to look out for the best interest of their country, and based on the best interest of their country can determine whether another country's temporary alliance or a temporary adversarial relationship. That's very interesting. I'm very interested to hear what you guys think about that. Do you guys agree with that wholeheartedly? Do you disagree with that? Do you want to elaborate more on that point? But I think he basically nailed it. I think he 100% got it down, and I think that's exactly how things work, and that's exactly how the world works, and not just with countries, but freaking with cities, with individuals. That's just life. That's all we got. If you enjoyed, please don't forget to subscribe, get a video a thumbs up, and check out the next one. I'll see you guys next time.